Hello. I think we are live, ready to go. So I'm just checking everything here, my cameras, my screen, and please be great to hear from you. If you feel like saying hello, just give us a hello in the chat if you like. Maybe who you are, where you're from. Love to hear from you, and please let me know if you have any questions during this stream. Happy to answer anything. So I hope you've had a chance to look at this method. I mean, it's really a book of exercises, although it is sometimes called, this particular book is sometimes called the Mozzani method. So Luigi Mozzani was a Italian guitarist who lived in the late 1800s and early 1900s. He's actually probably most famous for, he's most remembered for his work designing guitars. And he designed some unusual looking instruments as well. So, are we on here? Oh, what's going on? Oh, here we go. Where have we started from? And he designed some unusual. All right. Well, I think I started a little earlier than the stream started, so you might have missed some of what I was saying. I was just talking about Luigi Mozzani here. But if you've just joined, and I think we've just started now, please feel free to say hello at any time, and love to know where you're from and what you know who you are, where you're from, and if you've had a chance to look at this method book yet. It's a fantastic method book. It really is a book of many exercises, advanced harmony exercises. So. You can have a lot of fun with these. Alright, so Luigi Mozzani was a Italian guitarist who was around in the late 1800s, early to mid 1900s. And he was a composer. He left quite a few works. They're pretty good, but they're not like super high quality compositions. But he must have been quite a dazzling guitarist, I think. Probably quite a virtuoso, judging from this book. So I just thought I'd start with this with the preface quickly here, because it's pretty interesting. So for those who seriously contemplate the study of the guitar, the method here presented is solely intended. It is the result of many years of attentive study on the part of the author, and long and zealous consideration of the systems of leading masters, including J.K. Mertz, Legnani, Saw, Giuliani, and Rigondi, whose best ideas have afforded considerable inspiration for this achievement. Those who become adept in this method will have no difficulty in attaining the facility of execution which characterizes the old masters and acquiring their compositions, in addition to the other productions of the author Luigi Mozzani. So I particularly like this last part here where it says those who become adept in this method will have no difficulty in attaining the facility of execution which characterizes the old masters, and acquiring, which means gaining the ability to play their compositions in addition to his compositions. So it's something to think about when you start playing pieces by Mertz and Legnani and Saw and especially Rigondi. They have some very, very demanding passages. Passages from Variation on the Theme by Mozart and Rigondi. Rigondi has pretty much any piece by Rigondi. Mertz, you've got the Hungarian Fantasy, which is a very popular one, very popular virtuosic piece. So If you are adept in this method, you will have no difficulty in attaining the facility of execution, which is required for those types of pieces. That's basically what he's saying here. So let's get stuck into it. So part 1 here, we have 1 page of exercises, and he says to repeat each measure many times. So what he's got here, he's got these chords in tonic and dominant of all keys, starting in C major. So you see in the key signature there's no sharps or flats. So he's starting in C major, and then he's going to the relative minor, A minor. So he's going C, G7, which is tonic and dominant in C major, and then here he's going A minor, E7, which is tonic and dominant in A minor, and then as you just continue, you go all around the circle of fifths. So you go from C, from no sharps to 1 sharp, G major, E minor, tonic and dominant, 2 sharps, and so on. So I'll play a little bit of this for you to give you an idea of what it sounds like. So repeat each measure many times. I'll do that for you as well. Let me just check my camera angle is okay. Let's see here. You can see my left hand. Yeah, cool. All right, I'll continue. Sorry about that little interruption. I'll continue. G major. Just wanted to check the cameras. All right. Now E minor. D major. 2 sharps. B minor. 2 sharps as well. I'll go up to E major here. So now A major, 3 sharps. F sharp minor. This one gets a bit tricky. You'll see with the left hand. The second chord is a bit difficult, and then the last one, E major with 4 sharps. And then so on. So you continue, you go through all keys, all major and minor keys. So by the end you go through the flats, and then you wind up back in C major. So why is this important to practice? Well, these 2 chords, tonic and dominant, if you weren't aware, are the most important foundational chords in harmony for classical music. So you can find entire pieces that are made up, the majority of them, or sometimes the entire pieces are made up just of these 2 chords, tonic and dominant. Really, really just foundational to harmony. And this is a really, really quick way of playing through all keys, tonic and dominant. So you get to know them, I guess, intellectually in one sense, and then physically you get to know them too, because you're playing them and hearing them. So really, really good way to get acquainted with such a foundational aspect of harmony. So there is the first exercise. Number 2 is the same exercise, but now he arpeggiates it, and now he starts on the dominant. So you get G7 going to C twice, and then E7 going to A minor. So it's reversing the chords and adding this arpeggio to it. So I'll play that for you. This is what it sounds like. So now we're starting to really involve the right hand, and that adds an extra challenge to it, makes it a bit more hardcore, intense, you could say, and again going through all of the keys. So it sounds, I don't know, it sounds maybe a little bit tedious in some ways, but you're actually, when you practice something like this, you're very quickly learning the building blocks of music, and these building blocks you find in pieces so many different times. So even though it's sort of like eating your vegetables a little bit, you know. You get a lot of benefits from eating your vegetables, even if you might not like them, or if you'd rather eat something else. I think harmony today is sort of like the equivalent of eating vegetables. You know, there's lots of junk food out there, which are like these sort of technical exercises that sound a bit more flashy, and they're a bit easier to kind of play through. But I think this is the really beneficial stuff here. So tonic and dominant with the arpeggios, all keys. I'm going through this pretty quick. You can, there are about 60 pages, maybe about 50 pages of actual, exercises in this book. So number three now he expands the chords a little bit more here. So I'm going to use Roman numerals. You get the 1, you get 2 in first inversion, 2, 6, you get 5, 7, and 1. Now just make sure you can see that. 1, 2, 6, 5, 7, and 1. So you could say 1, 2, 5, 1. 1, 2, 5, 1 is another very, very common chord progression, and you often hear jazz musicians saying that, let's play a 1, 2, 5, 1. But it's also foundational. It also occurs a lot in classical pieces. So you do a 1, 2, 5, 1 in all keys, all major and minor keys again. So let's have a listen to that. All of the keys, 1, 2, 5, 1. So progression, learning chords is one thing where you're able to see, there's a C chord, there's a D minor chord in first inversion. That's one really good step in learning harmony. But the next step is to learn and practice progressions. So 1, 5 or 5, 1, tonic dominant is a progression. It's a chord progression. It's a very small one, but it's the most foundational one. And then this is another very, very common one, 1, 2, 5, 1, that you find in pieces of music a lot. So that idea of seeing the chords, as a group, like a sentence, different words that create a sentence. And that's what these progressions are, basically. So there we have that exercise. And then number 4 is the arpeggio version. So he adds the arpeggio and he changes the order a little bit of the chord. So you get 2, and he actually adds, he adds one more chord here, because you get 1 in second inversion, 6, 4, and then 5, 7, dominant in root position, and then 1 in root position. So it's changed the order and added this second inversion major chord in there. So that's the progression. So I'll play a little bit of this for you now. So that's what it sounds like. on. So there you go. You can hear that kind of movement, how it's just kind of fluidly moves from one key to another in this example. It's sounding a bit more maybe like music at the moment, because we're getting that more elaborated chord progression. So just looking for any comments. I'd love, if you have any comments or questions, I'd love to know. Maybe I can lead off with a little question and ask you, have you ever practiced progressions like this before? I'd love to know, love to hear if you have, or are you familiar with these progressions already from, studying music theory? I know a lot of people study music theory, and then often it's like this totally separate thing to playing the guitar, and so practicing things like this can be at least a start in synthesizing your knowledge of harmony. So I'll leave that question open, and feel free to answer whenever you like. All right, so that was the 1-2-5-1 progression in with arpeggios. All right, then we get another slight variation on the same progression. He's kind of each one kind of gets more and more extended. He's sort of adding more and more chords to it. So this time we go all the way. We have a 2-bar progression here, right? So 2 bars for each key. We get C major 1. Here we have an F major 4 chord. And then we get the 2-6, D minor in first inversion, and then we get the 1 in second inversion, C major with G in the bass, and then G7 in reposition, and then 1. A bit more elaborate now, isn't it? 1-4-2-1-5-1. Now I will point out that these 2 chords here are often they're often thrown together, and it's often called the cadential 6-4. Because you're putting the tonic chord into second inversion, which puts the dominant in the bass. So they share the same bass note, and they sound very similar to each other. There's not the notes move very minimally, very smoothly from one chord to another with that same bass note. So there it is, 1-4-2-5-1. All right, so let's have a listen to that. And this arpeggio pattern, each arpeggio pattern has so many varieties of arpeggio patterns in this. It's kind of crazy. But here we go. So I'll just play a few of these for you. I was in C major, now A minor. So there's beautiful progression now. It's really starting to sound a lot more like music when you start elaborating the chord progressions. One little tip I have for you is try to block out these chords with your left hand. So when you get this chord here, for example, you want to be holding the C chord, holding down all of those notes, and then when you get to this F chord, holding down the F, and then this one. I mean, that's pretty obvious there. But just something to remember for your technique is to block out all notes of each chord before you play the notes. Otherwise, you're going to get things like that happening. You might be intending to play a chord, and you haven't put one of your fingers down yet. Your right hand's already going, and then I have to put that finger down. So it makes your technique really much more efficient. And it helps your hands to see chords, if you know what I mean. Your hands start to see, start to block out chords, and then you start reading in groups of notes rather than individual notes. You start seeing music this way, how I've circled it. You start seeing, 6 chords here instead of whatever 6 times 4 is. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whatever 4 times 6. Yeah, 4 times 6. Whatever 4 times 6 is. I'm terrible with math. Whatever 4 times 6 is, you don't want to be. It's like 6, 12, 24. I think. Is it 24? Anyway, 20. Instead of seeing 24 notes, you're seeing 6 chords. Let's just something like that, right? So there is number 5. So we've still got a bit more of this type of format, and this is the second page of, so all keys, so that's just the second page of number 5. All right, number 6 here. So this one gets a little bit more, even more adventurous here with the left hand particularly. So what he's doing here is that here is your 1 chord, C major, but he's changing the voicing of the chord in the second part of the bar. So he's doing that in each bar here. That's the D minor chord to 6 in first inversion, and then playing it in the 5th position. So first position, 5th position, first position, then G7, first position to 3rd position. So it's 1, 2, back to 1, 2, 5, 1, but now with different voicings of the chords. So here we go. I'll play some of this for you, and particularly pay attention to like what the left hand's doing here with the voicings of the chords. So you can see it's quite a jump there. 24. Oh, thank you. Yeah, 24. Thanks for confirming. Just got a comment there. It is 20. That was 24. 6 times 4 is 24. Gosh, I should know. Back. I think I knew that in primary school, and I've forgotten now. My times tables. Anyway, so that's that exercise there, 1, 2, 5, 1 with different voicings. You're really starting to move around a lot with the left hand, and again, really important to block out the chords. Yeah, just I was trying to do that. I block out that, and then I block out that before my right hand does anything, and then at the next chord I block all the notes. So this and that. I don't want to be going like that because then my hands will be uncoordinated. And then this chord, you want to block all those notes together, and so on. So blocking the chords together can really help. Okay, and that again goes through all keys. So you really get to know the fretboard very well. You do that. Thank you. Fallen asleep on Giuliani. 120. Yeah, I've got some great I've got a great alternative for that. But I might have to share that another time because I don't want to get too distracted. But yeah, I know what you mean. So this is a great alternative, probably quite a bit more advanced than Giuliani's exercises. But if you're at that level, then go for it. They are fantastic. Really opens up a lot more possibilities here. All right, so the next one we get, he just keeps on expanding these chord progressions. So now he's actually starting to label them for you here as well, which is pretty cool. So I'll zoom in. I know the more I zoom in, the clearer I think it is for you. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you can have a good look at this, because it's getting pretty elaborate here. So he's using instead of Roman numerals, he's using the tonic and subdominant, dominant kind of thing here instead. So yeah, let me talk you through these chords. It's kind of interesting. It would take a little bit of an explanation to describe what he's labeling here. So I'm just going to use Roman numerals for now. I don't want to get too much into theory because there's still quite a bit of this book to go. So we have one chord, C major. Now here at subdominant, yeah, so that's the 4 chord. Here at subdominant again, but it's actually a 2 chord. So this is the function of it. It's 2/6, 1, 4, 2, 6, diminished 7th. That's kind of it. That explains what the chord is, but it's actually the 7 diminished. It is a diminished 7th of the dominant. It's called an applied chord or a borrowed chord. It's where you borrow a chord from another key. So you're borrowing the 7 diminished in G major. So that's where you get this F sharp there. That's where that comes from, because the key of G major has an F sharp in it. And then we go to the cadential 6/4 again, which is 1 in second inversion. It's getting pretty elaborate here. And then dominant 7, they share the same bass note. You can group those together as one chord, 5/6/4, cadential 6/4. Often happens at the end of a phrase or section. Cadential 6/4, and then back to tonic. So it's a pretty elaborate chord progression. And again, he does it in all major and minor keys. But let's just have a listen to a few of these. I might go up to just B minor. Okay, I'm to tune up. Just changed my bass strings recently. Okay, here we go. So that's C major, now A minor. That diminished 7 has so much impact if you listen now in G major. I'm pretty sure that note should be an F sharp there. Anyway, E minor. And D major. Minor. Alright, so a beautiful chord progression. I think it's very enjoyable to play that. Alright, so all keys, all major and minor keys, you end up back in C major again. So by the time you've gotten to here, you're pretty you've played a lot of chords in a lot of keys. You can say that. All right. So here now again, step 2, phase 2 of each chord progression. Add arpeggios. This time he gives you a few different options. I think it's just it's more. He gives you quite a few, like 6 different arpeggio patterns to use. So the first one is sort of like a inverted tremolo, backwards tremolo, P-I-M-A. Sounds like. So that one sounds like, and then B is kind of similar, except that your backwards tremolo is changing strings, going from the second to the third to the first. Sorry, from the third to the second to the first. So, and then back to the second, and then. Okay, so that's quite a challenge. Really, for both hands. I mean, your left hand's doing some pretty, pretty complex things there, and then your right hand having that arpeggio pattern going across the strings, the sort of tremolo-like pattern. And then the next one is your standard tremolo pattern, P-A-M-I. I didn't clarify this with the dots, and the fingering system here is an older one here, but that means thumb, and then 3 dots is A, 2 dots is M, and 1 dot is I. Alright, so just to clarify that. So that's just your standard tremolo. So you probably tell I've practiced the tremolo pattern a bit more than those other ones. Alright, and then D is your standard tremolo going up the strings, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd. So this is great if you are working on your tremolo. These are really great exercises for that. To swap between strings so quickly is quite challenging with the tremolo. So you got to watch out. There are some typos floating around. Okay, that's what was I doing? I think I was doing it right. Yeah, P-A-M-I. All right, and then the next one, pretty standard tremolo, just going up. You can imagine doing that with all of those chord progressions in all keys. That's a crazy workout. Really, really crazy, but crazy good if you're preparing advanced repertoire. And then this is very similar, but going the other way, descending. I'll just share a quick tip with you about developing speed in arpeggios, especially for ones like these. One approach that's often taught is to start an arpeggio slowly and gradually build up the tempo. Getting a little bit faster incrementally, but you can also do it the other way around, where you start by just plucking a chord and then trying to slow down the pluck. Instead of plucking, you're thinking of that's like infinite speed, and then you're just gonna play it like a slow pluck, if you know what I mean. Like you're gonna play all the notes together, but just separating them. And you should end up with something like that. And that's a really fast arpeggio. If you can repeat that. And the other way around. You can repeat that. Once you get that movement really solid, then it's kind of like learning vibrato, or like riding a bike or something. It's like once you get it, once you get that movement, then you kind of just get it, and you're able to work on it. And it's like something you have to find, not necessarily just something you have to practice, if that makes sense. Anyway, there's a little tangent away from this. So, yes, there you go. Oh, yeah, we have more. Sorry, I forgot about that. I don't even play it. He's got so many arpeggios, so many arpeggio patterns here. Very interesting ones. Okay, so you can try out one or several or all of them if you want on those chord progressions from before. Okay, so I think that concludes the first part 1 of the book. Now we go to part 2. So part 1 really dealt with chords a lot, and part 2 deals a lot more with scales. And it's a little different to how scales are often found in method books today. Like this, he really plays on the idea of shifting a progression, a pattern, a melodic pattern, or a scale pattern up and down the neck. And some of these patterns are crazy, like you're barring and stretching, and then you have to shift it up and do it again and do it again. And it's great preparation if you're playing something with a lot of barring in it. La Cathedral, for example. It's great preparation for that. It's actually preparing you beyond what you need a lot of the time, which is a good thing because it makes the really challenging stuff a bit easier than what you're practicing here. So part 2, we're going to start here, number 1. So we get a scale pattern, so just a scale pattern here, and then shifting it up a fret, and then he's saying should be continued to 9th position, if possible more, and then return. So that's crazy. I've never even tried that many. Going up to the 9th position just alone is a lot. And then to return as well, wow. So, but let's see. Maybe I'll try it now I could try it as a debut for myself and for you. Yeah. So, what does this sound like? Starting in the 1st position, going up to the 9th position, and then back. Let's see. Let's see how we go. That's pretty challenging, I have to admit. To keep your concentration for that long, I was starting to phase out a little bit as I was going back down, finding that pretty challenging to just keep my concentration. So maybe there's something to his suggestion. 9th position, if possible more, and then return. But there you go. And that's probably the shortest exercise too. So the next one is very similar, except it goes up higher. So we're going up to the 1st string now, and it's in triplets, or in 6/8, in 3 groups of 3. I'm not going to go up. I'm not going to do that up to the 9th and back again for all these. So I'll just demonstrate this a couple of times what it sounds like. So let me try that again. And so on. And then the next one is very similar, this time in groups of 4. Now we're going into minor scales, so we're just doing major scales there. Now we're going to minor scales with a full bar. These start to get pretty advanced here, because we're going to start barring and stretching and repeating that. So I should put a word of caution now, I don't want anyone to get injuries or fatigue, or don't want anyone to damage their playing as a result of trying these without some care and caution and thought and awareness as to how your hands are feeling and how how your technique is, your posture and your relaxation and all aspects of your technique. You want them to be regulated really well. So don't try too many of these if you're not comfortable. It's fine to just try one of them or a couple, or you don't even have to shift them up very far. But yeah, just be careful. Don't overdo exercises like these if you're not at that sort of stage yet. All right. Any questions? No questions. All right. So we're going to bar the first fret, and then and then we're going to play a harmonic minor. So it's starting on F. So it's F harmonic minor, and then you go to F sharp harmonic minor, and so on. And notice the rhythm too. It's sort of a burst rhythm here with the quavers, semiquavers, like that. All right. So here we go. Alright, so it's a great barring workout. Really, really fantastic for your left hand if you're at that stage where you can bar for an extended period of time and you're playing a piece that has that sort of demand. Then exercises like this really warm you up very well for things like that. Okay, the next one, number 5, is the same thing but with melodic minor now. So you get the raised 6th and 7th on the way up and then lowered on the way down. Let me give this a try. I'm not playing the right rhythm. I just realized at the end here I should keep on going with that. Anyway. So that's a bit more challenging, especially at the first fret, because you got to stretch up to the 5th fret like that whilst holding the bar, and then get back to the 2nd fret with your 2nd finger. It's quite a challenge, that one. Okay, so we're in minor keys for a while now. We go back to major. Very similar idea. This time we're starting on the 5th string, D flat, first position. Oh, let me check this again. Yeah, sorry. So that one's a bit more. I should be barring. Sorry, yeah, I should be barring that. So doing that with the bar. It's a lot bit easier without the bar. But yeah, just practicing with the bar. So, okay. One little tip about barring is that you want to try and. You've probably heard this before. You want to try and use the weight of your arm, and so your arm is sort of falling. Your hand is falling onto the fretboard, rather than you squeezing. That it's just so much easier when you get that motion going. And you can practice things where, where you. Sometimes I teach my students a sort of a hand drop or an arm drop, starting up high, and then dropping. Keeping the thumb off the fretboard and dropping the hand onto the notes. You can do that with single notes, to encourage that kind of dropping, and then keeping the thumb totally inactive, totally disengaged, not tensed or locked up or anything, totally relaxed. And then when you put the bar down, you want to maintain that with the thumb. A lot of problems come from the thumb with barring. The fatigue can really hit you there, and then that can affect the rest of the hand. So what about starting at the higher positions, working there? That's a great way to do it. It's probably a better way to do it that way, actually, because then it gets more and more difficult. So instead of starting at the hardest place. So yeah, fantastic suggestion. I think that would be really good thing to do. Start at the higher positions and work your way down. But he has written it this way, so I guess you can do it this way as well. All right, so we had that bar there. Now we get to what's the difference between? Okay, this is the same scale, but with no burst rhythm. It's just. So on, and then he's extending it out a little bit more in groups of 3. Then we go to the minor keys. So number 9 is your harmonic minor. This time starting on the 5th string. Now, this is crazy. I don't know how he. That's going. If he's intending you to keep barring from the 1st fret, he's wanting you to play from the 1st fret to the 6th fret with your 4th finger. It's a huge stretch and keeping the bar down. I can just get there, but it's like very, very demanding. Does get easier as you go up. So as we had the suggestion in the comments, you could start higher and start at a higher position. That's much more feasible there in the 1st position. It's very, very, very demanding. Okay, so that's harmonic minor, starting on B flat. I have all these asides. I apologize for that, but as thoughts hit me, I just want to say them before I forget. Another great thing to do with these is to say the root, B flat minor, B flat harmonic minor, and play it, and then play, shift it up to the 2nd fret, and then you got 2 sharps, and then you say B harmonic minor. So you start making those connections up the fretboard, and then if you want to go a step further, you could even say the notes: B flat, C, D flat, B flat, F, G flat, A natural, B flat, and so on. You could do that without the music, with the music, or without the music. If you are using the music, you're activating a bit more of the visual connection to the score. If you're not using the music, you're activating more of the visual connection to the fretboard. There's lots of different sort of things like that you can do to increase your knowledge of the fretboard, or if you want to just blind muscle memory just as a workout type of thing, you can do that too. Alright, so next one is B flat melodic minor. You see the 2 naturals on the way up, 2 flats on the way down. B flat melodic minor. Oh gosh, okay, let me give it a go. That sounded like. I think there's another typo there. There's a 2 there, and it made me play A natural. It should be A flat. Rhythm too. I'm so used to this burst rhythm here. It should just be continuous. What am I doing? Just by demonstrating these, I'm getting a great workout from doing that. I can feel like my hand is much more warmed up now than it was before, when I started at the beginning. I'm ready to play some pieces now. Really, really good. Really prepares you. Really gets your hands going. Okay, and then next one, again, barring, and we're playing a major scale. This is A flat major. I did it again with the rhythm. A major. number 12 is major scale again. This is going to be quite a bit of stretching in here. So once again, you might want to start up higher and work your way down instead of starting lower and going up. So here we go. This is F major, root note here, 1 flat, F major. Number 12, still going. We got a lot of these types of exercises. Number 13 is very similar to what you just did, F major, but now it's a smaller chunk, so you could probably burst it a bit faster if you wanted to. And it's in 3 groups of 3. Really just focusing on that stretch. Great to do that, for the hand. And next one is very similar, now B flat major, starting on the 5th string. And so on. And then we get number 15 is more of a sort of scale pattern. We get this arpeggio at the start. So this is a D flat major arpeggio, D flat major scale in first position, D flat major chord going up and then a scale going down, and then you get D major going up and then a scale going down. So that sounds like this. Oops. Number 16 is an extension of that. With these barring scales. Next one is another sort of a scale pattern now. Great stuff, great workouts. All right, so that's sort of that portion of the scales section here, which deals with shifting scale patterns, and many of them with the bar down, full bar down. Really great section. I mean, by the time if you've done the chords and then gotten here as well, it's a very thorough regime you've gone through. Played through so many chords and keys and different scales. You're going to be developing your technique immensely, just like he said in the preface. For acquiring skill so that you can play the works of the old masters and maybe even the modern masters as well, without difficulty. So this now we go to a sort of a new sort of phase of the scales section here. We get this is now going in key, right? So we're going to start in C major, just like we did with the chords earlier, and then you go to the relative minor, A minor. So there's no more moving patterns here. A minor, and then G major, 1 sharp, and then E minor is 1 sharp, the relative minor, and so on. But so here he's indicating what position you are to play these scales in. So they do sort of derive from what you've just practiced. You'll be using some of the same patterns. So now you can think, okay, I'm on the 6th string, the 7th position, starting on C. So you have to remember, which is very, if not exactly the same as one of the shifting exercises, very similar. And then you're going to do A harmonic minor, just the G sharp, A harmonic minor in the 5th position. He's giving you no fingering, so you really have to think back to those movable scales and what the pattern is. Well, you have to know the fretboard well enough to be able to read through. So here's A melodic minor, A harmonic minor in the 5th position. And G major in the 2nd. And E minor in the 1st. And then D major in the 9th. Minor in the 7th. And so you are often using the same patterns, you're just, now it's a bit more varied and random. You're not just shifting one pattern up and down, you're going from a major scale pattern to a harmonic scale pattern and all these different positions. So it's a very different, I think, approach to learning scales in keys, as opposed to something like the Segovia scales, which are basically just different fingerings for each scale. There are some repeating patterns definitely in the Segovia scales, but it's not as based on position. There's no shifting basically when you play one entire scale. You're just playing it in one position. So all right, that's number 18 in all keys. Just tells you position. So really good test. Can you play G sharp minor, G sharp harmonic minor in the 4th position? Go. That's, if you know the pattern, you can, or if you know the fretboard, or a mixture of the two. So that's that. And then now this one is very similar, except now. So you have the positions again, but now you've got these cadences as well. So sort of going back to what we were doing at the start, and chord progressions at the end of each key. And then instead of harmonic minor, it's now melodic minor, with the sharps raised 6th and 7th on the way up, and then lowered on the way down. Okay, so very, very similar to what I just showed you, except now you've got these cadences which kind of modulate you to the next key. So I'll try out a little bit of this for you. So C major in the 7th position. Now we're going to play that here. Very difficult chord. And then 5th. The other way around the circle. So instead of going up the sharps around clockwise, it's going anti-clockwise. So you go to the 1 flat. So that's another challenge to it. It's so methodical. This kind of training, I wish this was mandatory in conservatorium training, or university training for a guitarist, for a classical guitarist. This kind of stuff, I think, should be mandatory. I believe with if you were a pianist, this kind of thing probably would be mandatory, and the guitar is just as harmonic, based as an instrument as the piano. So this stuff is so important, if not more important, because the piano has some logic to it, in the layout, but the guitar is, we have patterns, which is good, but it's pretty illogical when it comes to reading a piece of music. So if you know all this stuff, if you've got all this stuff behind you, all the chords and all the scales that are in this book, you have so much to draw upon to inform you when you're learning a piece of music. Anyway, that's my little spiel about that. So it does it in all keys again, all major and minor keys. Something that I myself, going through this so methodically with you now, it's making me want to practice it even more. I've practiced it a little bit, but this is really fun actually to to look at it in depth and talk about it. You really learn a lot when you have to explain things to other people, I've found. So, Warner, hey. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, you wish this was mandatory. Oh, great to see you on. Cool. I haven't seen you for a while. Yeah. Cool. So the next exercise is now with fingerings, detailed fingerings, sort of like the Segovia scales a bit more now. So he's telling you, the fingerings and the position, a combination of the two things. Especially if it goes up higher. So these sound using open strings. So I'll play a few of these for you. G and so on. So going around clockwise. Around the circle there in all keys again. So that's that. Just goes on for a bit. Alright. So that concludes the scales part of the book. So part 1 was on chords, part 2 on scales, and now part 3, the last part, and this is quite short in comparison. So part 3 is mostly chord progressions. There's not too much logic in part 3. To me it seems just like a bit more of a random collection of different exercises, but involving very similar things to earlier with a chord progression and shifting it up frets. So part 3. So here we have a chord progression. I'll play it for you first and then talk about it. So let's see. And there's a typo. Somebody got to catch these typos. I'm pretty sure this should be an A, not a B there. An A there. And then you shift that up. So you get a very similar chord progression to what we were looking at earlier. We have 1, E4, so there's F sharp major, B major, and then what do we have here? 2, 6, so that's G sharp minor in second inversion, and then a diminished 7th chord of 5. Diminished 7th of 5, and then cadential 6/4. Just call it that. And then back to your 1 chord. So it's sort of that 1, 4, 2, 5, 1 elaborated sort of progression, and then you're shifting that up, and you got that arpeggio pattern with it. All right, so very similar to part 1 of this method. This is the same thing but with a different arpeggio pattern in groups, in triplets. And then we get a new pattern here. So a new chord progression, an arpeggio pattern. So barring the 2nd fret. So all barring for each chord. So shifting that up, and alright, so shifting these up can be a little challenging because he hasn't written it out, he's only written out once in full. So I like to use the bass, can really help ground you in terms of where you are, because you start in the, go back in the 2nd position. It should actually say, second position, and then you go to the 3rd position for the G. So you go 3rd position for the G, right? And then you're still in the 3rd position, and then you can think of that G sharp. He hasn't given you many fingerings here. You're going to use your third finger like that, and then it moves chromatically up to the A, so you can get there. It tells you fourth finger, so that sort of movement of the bass can help you with something like that. And then it's very similar sort of thing. Number 4, just a different chords. I think it's the same chord progression again, but in starting on the 5th string with a slightly different voicing. Up, and now catch that there. He says continue to 10th position and return. So give it a try if you want. Continue to the 10th position and return. That would be I think there should be a Guinness World Record or something, for someone who's actually played everything in this book as he's described it. I just that's crazy, but yeah, you can try it if you like. Alright, and then we get a similar chord progression now in the minor key, so this is in C minor, and an interesting arpeggio. He doesn't tell you what fingering to use, but you can come up with your own, I guess. C minor, and then you do it in C sharp minor, 4th position, shifting up. It's the same progression in minor, 1, 2, 4, I'm not talking about inversions, 7 diminished of 5, and then cadential 6, 4, and then your 1, back to your 1 chord. He seems to like that progression. And there's just a few exercises left. I might even skip because it's very, very much the same thing here. But numbers 7 and 8 and 9, we get some really unusual things going on here, because you can see that it's got these squiggly lines indicating to roll, or I think in this case to strum these notes. And I don't know if it should be backwards or forwards, because there are some arpeggio patterns from the 1800s where they strum backwards. They strum backwards like that. So whether it's backwards or forwards, I actually think it's backwards, because forwards is more like a raschiato. And anyway, so let's see what we get here. So we're going to go. And you can tell I'm pretty clumsy at this. I've practiced it a little bit, but it's sorry, I've got a question here. What right hand fingering did you opt for exercise number 5? Okay, I'll go back. I think I did let me write this down like this. P-I-M-A, P, P-I, that's not good. Give me some room. Here we go. P-I-M-A, P-I-M-I, I did a cross string, and then A-M-I-P. Like that. That's the finger I did, like a cross string going P-I-M, and then crossing I up to the first string, and then A-M-I-P for the, go for the descending arpeggio. So thank you for your question, Dean. Thank you. All right, so yeah, you could use, it wasn't uncommon in the period from the method books and pieces I've seen to double up. So it wouldn't be unusual to do that too. You could double A as well if you wanted to. So yeah, back to this. I'm a little clumsy with it, but it's very interesting that it's here. This idea of sort of strumming 2 notes with 1 finger. So yeah, he's indicating the I finger, but strumming them. So it's hard to be even accurate with that too. I mean, I find that difficult to strum only 2 strings. And I don't know if it's forwards or backwards either. There's no information about it, so you have to kind of just guess a little bit. So that's still a bit clumsy. That's me doing it forwards, strumming forwards with my fingers. So he has a few of these exercises to finish the book there. Well, I know there's a few more. We're almost at the end, I think. Oh no, gosh, what am I talking about? Yeah, there's still quite a few more. Still quite a few more exercises, but I'm getting a little tired. I don't know how much more of this I can do, so I might have to stop it there. I think I've demonstrated enough for you. There are a few more exercises to go here, and very sort of similar things, either chord progressions or scale patterns shifting up the fretboard. That's pretty much what you get in the last section of the book. I'm getting. I don't think I can handle any more of this in one sitting. Just sort of flicking through to show you what's in the rest of it. This is where it ends. Yeah, this is where it ends on that. Oh no, it's not. That's where it is. Okay, yeah, I remember this. I remember that. Okay, so we end with these. These look almost like studies in a way. Like a whole page of just one thing in one key. So sort of get some little studies at the end a little bit there. But I'm buggered. That is there's still quite a bit more to go, but I don't think I can do it in one sitting. So hopefully that's enough for you to digest. I want to open it up to some questions. If you have any questions about this or about harmony in general, I would love to know. How long have we been going for? Yeah. So yeah, maybe if there are questions, I'll be happy to go for another 15-20 minutes or so. I guess I should keep the guitar here so you can see my hand in case I have to demonstrate anything. Any questions about harmony, analysis, chords, chord progressions, practicing, anything like that? Any questions? Play some waiting music. Could do that in, using these chords if you wanted to. That from Mozzani's book. Doesn't look like we have any questions. That's okay. If you do have questions, I know sometimes questions might bubble up later on. So if you have questions later on, feel free to shoot me an email or get back to the video and leave a comment later on if you like. And here we go. How would you extend these exercises to encompass a late romantic, early 20th century idiom? Oh, what a good question. Well, how would you extend these exercises? Late romantic. Yeah, I guess the language he's using here is pretty sort of classical. It's pretty like 17th century, early 18th century sort of a language, I guess. So I think the best thing to do, honestly, is to find a different method book that has more of those more elaborate, romantic type of chord progressions in them. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know Mertz has his guitar school, which you might find some sort of more colourful chord progressions in there. Mertz's guitar school. I can't really think off the top of my head, but I know that there are other method books out there which do have more. You start to find like augmented sixth chords, and you find there is one. Yeah, I've got one that came to my head in Kirkman's, Mrs. Joseph Kirkman's method. She published the Rule of the Octave, which is an earlier practice, but she published it with a sort of a more romantic harmonization. So the Rule of the Octave is a harmonized scale, and she published that using like minor seventh chords and I think augmented sixth chords in it as well. So that would be another resource. So I think the best answer I can come up with. I mean, you could find ways of extending what's here, but if you want to get into that sort of more later language, even though Mozzani was around then, he's sort of looking back a little bit to the earlier, Saw Giuliani's type of musical language, harmonic language. So I would actually suggest looking at different method books. And the two I mentioned, Mertz's Guitar School and Kirkman's, I think it's called Improved Method for the Guitar. Kirkman's method, you know what? I will send these two methods to all of you, so you can have a look there, and I'll make a page reference to tell you where to go to find these more sort of later harmonic language, late romantic sort of early 20th century. I don't know yet. I don't really know if that's starting to get. It gets a bit fuzzy because you could even be starting to talk about jazz and things, and there are great great method books which are almost a bit of a hybrid between classical and jazz, where they have you play your major and minor seven arpeggios and things like that. But it's there are lots of 20th century guitar pieces that use that blend a little bit of that language in too. So fantastic to open that up. Thanks, Warner. That helps. That helps remind me that he, even though Mozzani was around, I can't remember his dates exactly, but sort of late 1800s to the middle-ish, I think 20s, something like that, 20s or 30s, 1920s, 1930s. So even though he was around at that time, he was very much looking back at an older harmonic language. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks for joining. All right. Looks like we don't have any more questions. So I'll send you those two extra resources, Mertz's Guitar School and Kirkman's Improved Method for the Guitar, and maybe if I can find any others, if I just have a quick scan, I might be able to find some others. So, there we go, 43, yeah. Man, he was pretty old, huh? 1869 to 1943, that's it. Yeah, so up to the 40s, yeah. I think this was published, I can't remember, I should have, now I'm getting all academic, and I can't, let's see, there we go, 1898. Okay, so almost at the turn of the century. So sort of early, in the middle of his lifetime, I guess, there. Be interesting to see if he published other similar, books of exercises or not. But anyway, I think we'll finish there, and thank you very much for joining. It's been a lot of fun, and sorry I didn't get quite all the way through. There's still a few more pages, but I just can't. It's so much in one sitting, as you might find out if you have a go yourself. So it's been a lot of fun, and I hope you take something valuable away from this. And it's a bit of a treasure, I think. This book, if not the whole thing, there are definitely parts of it which any guitarist can really benefit from. But I think a thorough study of particularly parts 1 and 2, sections 1 and 2 of the book, it's very thorough. So thanks a lot. Yeah, you're tired just watching me. I don't blame you. Yeah, it's pretty intense what's in this book. So thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I might keep doing this kind of thing. I've been getting a little bit more comfortable with live streaming now. So and if this is helping the anyone watching, then I'm happy to do it. So it's really interesting. There are lots of method books like this that are just picking up dust, and a lot of times digital dust, because they're on the internet. They can be hard to find. I found this one in the Munich Digital Library, which is a great resource, by the way. I will also send that to you. How about that? Munich Digital Library, great resource. You find some really fantastic pieces and method books, and the scanning quality is really good. Sometimes with IMSLP and other sort of public, digital libraries or whatever, it's sometimes the scan quality is a bit second rate. Might be unclear or something like that. So yeah, they tend to have really nice editions and well scanned at the Munich Digital Library. There was another great resource which I don't know if it's permanently closed down. I think it was a Danish online Danish library that had Royal Danish Library that had a lot of really great resources, and that's lately seems to be closed, which is unfortunate. Hope it's just temporary. But anyway, I'll send you 3 things. Mertz's Guitar School, which it is a bit more aimed at amateurs, but there might be some interesting later harmonic, chords and progressions to find. And Kirkman's improved method for the guitar, which has the rule of the octave, and a link to the Munich Digital Library so you can check things out yourself. So, RX. I'm not sure if it is that one. Maybe got moved to IMSLP. Okay. Well, I hope they did. I hope they moved it all, because there was a lot of stuff that was not on IMSLP before. So thanks. I'll check into that myself. So thanks for the note there. Yeah. All right. Let's end it there, and thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for... Oh, really? Boji also got moved. I didn't know that. I thought that was still there. Interesting. We need to keeping up some sort of newsletter about this kind of thing, because it's pretty important when such valuable resources get moved or shut down or something. It's a bit of a setback sometimes. But anyway, thank you all for joining. Thank you for being part of this, and I hope you have a lot of fun with the method book. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions at any time, and all the best.